Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the brewing sort of brass knuckles war between the Department of Justice and the judges of the district court in New Jersey, who have had, to DOJ's way of thinking about it, an outrageous political act of not reinserting Alina Habba in the position of acting U.S. attorney. Okay. Such a tangled web here, and the administration, as usual, just is really doesn't know the law at all. Let me start with the law. Congress has this whole scheme for when you appoint people U.S. attorney, and they get to advise and consent. And that's a political process, and whoever is chosen, that person gets to be. But if no one is chosen over a certain period, for example, an interim appointment, which lasts for 120 days, is made and nothing happens, now under law, it comes to the judges of the court where the U.S. Attorney's Office is to make the selection. So here we go. Habba put forward as interim U.S. Attorney and nominated, but they didn't take up the appointment. It's all sort of still floating in ether. And the total routine thing to do in that situation is for the court not just to choose, but choose who for the court is going to run the place well, run it professionally. They don't have to choose the person who's in there, as the administration is falsely suggesting. I'll give you from my own experience. I was confirmed in 1998. That was a time of great partisan back and forth with the Clinton impeachment. And when it came time, then there wasn't a political solution. The courts put someone in. They put in a Republican, well-respected professional. She was terrific. She ran the office well. They didn't put me in, which would have put their, thumbs on the scale for the political process. They step in, does the court precisely when the political process hasn't achieved its solution. So the District of New Jersey is now under the law. Once the Alina Habba's 100-day appointment runs its course, they have to make a choice. Now, somehow the administration is taking this routine action that happens all the time and where they try to put in someone good and expressing huge outrage and making it seem, they seem not to be able to filter any kind of action through any other prism but the political one. So they're saying these are rogue judges who are usurping executive authority. Just complete bogus, 100% wrong. It's the court's job, now that there's no appointment, to put in who's best for the court, whom they know will run the office well, etc., and not Alina Habba. And by the way, even if you almost always put in the person who was there, meaning Habba, this would be an exception. You've got someone in Habba who has, just a terrible record even before coming in of ethical improprieties and sanctions and unprofessional conduct in court. Since then, she's been an absolutely as politicized and political U.S. attorney as you can be, starting with the statement that every time I hear it makes my head spin, that let's see what I can do. I'm looking forward to using this position, this law enforcement position, to help New Jersey turn red. Kind of can't think of anything more worse for a U.S. attorney candidate to say. And then she proceeded to start all these investigations against Democrats only. They're lousy investigations. She has, according to the New York Times, shattered morale there. She would be like the last person a court would choose to put in when what they want is for the office to run well. But Pam Bondi takes their selection of the professional first assistant, same thing that happened in my case, a woman here named Desiree Grace, who's been there almost 10 years, as a challenge of a political action by left-wing crazies, or however she thinks of the court. Both she and Deputy Todd Blanche and even Clinton totally trashed them. And so what does she do? She reaches out and fires Desiree Grace. Now, there's some question marks here. Like, did she fire her completely from her position or just try to remove her from that position? As it turns out, she can't. Only the president can, at least under the statutory scheme that prevails and has always prevailed. Maybe we get some highfalutin argument that the Constitution requires a more direct kind of power in the president, but that's not what the law is. So there's very good reason to believe that if Bondi fired her after she was appointed by the court, it wasn't effective. But moreover, it's just what happens now. I've never seen anything like it. They're basically saying, we don't care what the court does. We're just going to go back and fire that person. Imagine, by the way, the Desiree Grace's successor, who would you like to be, and then appointed, and you can get the immediate pink slip from Pam Bondi. Now, the Desiree Grace has made this very interesting. She said, "Thank you, court. Thanks for appointing me consistent with law," which it has, 546. "I'm ready to begin." So they're setting up a kind of real, tangible, concrete war where she shows up. Yep, here's the court order. I'm U.S. attorney. Maybe the DOJ shows up. Yep, here's the order. You don't work here anymore. And what is that fight going to look like? How ruthless will the DOJ be? What will higher courts sort of do with it? Will they let the DOJ's conduct control? All of this unnecessary, unfair, ill-advised, because it's all based on the notion, which they don't understand, that the law isn't supposed to act to put in somebody solid and competent, but rather it's just all a political process. It's the only prism they can sort of see. So this is a political battle that they're now going to have. But we'll see what the court says. We'll see what higher courts say. We'll see even potentially this could well set up the ultimate battle we've been thinking of down the line. What happens if the judges of the court order the marshals to, you name it, but open the office for Grace, and then the DOJ says no and you work for us? I mean, this could get ugly and gnarly pretty fast. You might think that maybe Bondi, having thrown down the gauntlet, would not want to, with all the trouble she's in with Epstein, etc., commit to such a totally fraught and tricky process, but they certainly have to date. So we really want to keep our eye on the moves and counter moves that they're obviously considering right now. And for the judges' part, this is not the kind of thing they get involved in, but I'm sure they think, look, very contrary to what the department said, we did what we are supposed to do here. We picked the person who's best for the office, can best represent it professionally. We can count on what they say and what they tell their other folks to say, as opposed to the completely shattered morale of the people who are there. That's just good government, and that's the law as we've been forced really to play it out because the political process hasn't come to a solution yet. So they is the department up in arms over something that really is routine, but we'll see what that makes them do as a matter of raw power and what the higher courts do. For now, Grace has taken the position, yep, I'm the U.S. attorney, and I'm ready to begin. So it's going to get it already has gotten really bizarre. It's certainly not good for the District of New Jersey. And we are sort of in, as the administration has put us in several times, unknown territory where we'll see whose will prevail in the essential sort of legal versus political showdown. The administration, of course, being completely political, and the judges being legal, according to the section that the Congress passed to say, when there isn't a choice, you make the choice. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.